So firstly, I want to say welcome to all the people here from Memphis. Say hello, everybody. Good morning. That sounds great. Thank you. All right. Today's supporters, we have Bristol Squibb, Genentech, Sandoz, and TG Therapeutics. We want to thank them for supporting us to do this program. We also have the exhibitors of Alexion, Biogen, Bristol Squibb, Genentech, Sandoz, TG Therapeutics, and Novartis. And these companies are here because they know the good that we're doing providing these programs in the rural and underserved communities around the United States, so they want to make sure that we're able to do these programs. Jeffrey Segal has been active with the multiple sclerosis community for a number of years. You will hear about it from him directly when he gets up here and starts speaking with you all. But Jeff today is going to speak about what wellness works for you, all right, or wellness that works. And he's going to speak about staying active, stretching and strengthening, and a few other things as well. And hopefully he won't dive on the microphone as he has done in the past. But Jeff has been doing programs with MS Views and News for many years. He's also led some of our programs in the past, and I'm looking forward to introducing him, getting him up here, and getting things started again. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thanks, Stuart and MS Views and everyone helping out for having me here. And thank you everybody who's listening and who knows how to find this topic or this presentation on the Learning channel on YouTube. So one of the things that I like to hear the most from people when I'm asking about MS, especially when I'm talking to physicians, and it's not something I'm looking for as an answer, but I enjoy hearing it. It's, I don't know. Because there's so much that people don't know about MS. People that are treating MS, and people that are living with MS, and people that are living with people that are dealing with MS, right? So it's all comes together when people have a question. And now the problem is, we live in this new world of acronyms. How many people in here are married? How many people in here have a significant other? How many people in here's person that they're married to knows they're with the significant other? No, I'm just kidding. No, but how many people in here have children? Okay, and how many people in here text message? How many people in here don't text message? Okay, good for you. I like you, or I like you already. So in the world of text messaging and children comes acronyms, right? I don't know what they all mean. Do more research on what 3 letters mean in a text than I do research. It's incredible, especially because I have a child that's going to be 18 soon. But I love finding all these things out. I love reading what the things mean and what I thought they meant, because a lot of them are really different. I mean, I've heard stories. My mother got in a really big, problem. A big problem came her way because she sent a message to somebody after somebody was deceased, and at the end she wanted to give them lots of love, so she put LOL. No, so that didn't go so well, and she didn't know why, and I had to explain it to her. So one of the things that you hear about, which you hear a lot from people on stage, is TMI, right? You know what TMI is? Too much information, right? Well, I'm going to tell you what I dislike even more than that. It's TMMI, too much misinformation. And that's what you get when you hear the non-professionals talk about MS. And when I say the non-professionals, it's them, they. They are the ones that say everything, right? You hear what they say. That's what people tell you. Well, they say MS started in this country, or this, they say this causes MS to worsen, or this is better for MS. Well, they don't have sources. That's the way I look at it. In science, and I'm a personal trainer, and I'm a firm believer in science and the scientific method. And if you are in that world of science, you've had to have come across somebody teaching you that if you can't measure it, it does not exist. It's not real if it can't be measured. That's science. That's in the lab. When there's something in the lab, you're measuring things. And I truly believe that. I believe that completely. That was the base of research, measurements, until I was diagnosed with MS. And that went to hell. That screwed everything up, because how do you measure someone's fatigue? How do you measure how depressed somebody is? How do you measure how someone is feeling heat, how they're reacting to heat? It's just the way they explain it to you. So you have to believe what they're telling you. And as a personal trainer, I have to take in all of this information and then regurgitate it out to a plan. So when somebody asks me, what's the best exercise for MS? I'm looking at a bunch of different people in the room who walk differently, who talk differently, who move, who reach differently, some are left-handed, some are right-handed. So the answer is yes, I'm going to keep it broad. The best exercise for MS is an exercise that has resistance, a progressive resistance component, an aerobic component, and a flexibility component. Even better, what if one type of exercise can contribute to all three of those factors? That's what I try to bring to the table. There's no two people I train, unless they're training together and they're twins, and it doesn't happen often, that have the same program, because their goals are different and their abilities are different. And their ability to conform to a movement or to something new is different, and the time in which they're going to take to adjust to that is different. So when somebody asks me, what's the best exercise for MS, I have to be very broad, and I have to understand the person and who they are and what their abilities are, what they've done in the past, the injuries they've had. Because MS is something that hits you like a ton of bricks, or it slowly gets bad throughout your life to the point where you look back and you say, wow, I can remember when X, Y, or Z used to be so easy. Or when you say, what was I going to say? How many people do that? And I've heard as a personal trainer, so many people say, oh, so you count reps. Personal trainers are good at counting then, right? No, you have to be into research. You have to understand the ups and downs, the pros, the cons, what's indicated and what's contraindicated. So when it comes down to it, there's three types of personal trainers. There's the ones that are good counters and bad counters. Ha, come on, laugh. Those four kinds. Then there's a kind that didn't understand my joke. So when I walked around and asked some questions. A lot of people asked me questions about stuff, how to do stuff in a chair, which I will get to. What's the best type of equipment to use for exercise? It's you. Everything else is to complement you, what you're able to do. So it's another one that there's no answer to. There's not a best piece of equipment, but you're the equipment. I could do a full program for somebody without a single piece of equipment, or just by looking around the room and finding things that people might be able to use. Something such as a water bottle. I'm going to hold the cover on it so it doesn't say what the manufacturer is. But a water bottle filled with water. Now, if you don't have visual problems, you can catch this pretty well. But if you have visual problems, you're going to bump into doors. You're going to bump into corners of walls. You're going to do all that type of stuff. When you're in an exercise program, you can't do that kind of stuff. There's no room for error when you're holding a heavy weight. So if somebody has visual problems, that's something that I have to take into account and make sure that there's nothing that's going to be dangerous, or in somebody's way. How many people in here have walked around a corner and hit their shoulder on the corner of a wall? How many people in here have noticed other people with MS doing that? Well, that might be because of proprioception, which is about vision, what he was talking about. Your visual field, that's part of proprioception, knowing where you are in space. Now, practicing, which is exercise, which as you practice and get better, that's a benefit of exercise, you see that you have to be able to visually see the things that you're going to use. And if you're ambulating and you're moving forward or to the side, you need to be able to have both eyes kind of on the same page. And if you don't, then you have to tell the person who's writing the program for you that those are issues that you're dealing with, and they might be able to help you with them. But if they don't, you're lost. You're in trouble. You can get hurt. And that's the one thing you don't want, is to have an injury on top of having MS. How many people in here have ever broke a bone? How many people in here have ever torn a ligament, their knee, torn their ankle? How many people in here have ever worn a cast? Come on, someone's had a cast. Okay, so out of you guys who have had a cast, Now, I can tell you, I tore a ligament in my finger. Big deal. It's a little pinky finger. Your ulnar side of your hand is the strongest side for your grip strength. So I wore something for 12 weeks, and right now, after the 12 weeks are up, I'm 4 days out of taking the brace off. That's as much as I can bend my pinky right now. That's great, compared to it being straight. So 12 weeks of keeping this straight without bending it, and when I take it off, now I couldn't bend it at all. Now imagine, you have a flare-up with MS. It's going to take time to come back. Things are going to take time to heal. You can't expect for them to come and, oh my gosh, my exacerbation has ended, let's go for a run. It doesn't work that way. Just like when you take a cast off of someone's arm that's been in this position, tell them to straighten it, and you'll hear a yelp when they go to do this, because it's painful, because you've formed a contracture. Your tendon has shortened in that position, and it takes time. So that's what exercise helps you do. It helps you recover, it helps you gain what you've lost, or it helps you get ahead of where you ever were before or ever dreamed of being. How many people in here are athletes or played sports? Okay, how many people in here ever played sports and the best time you ever played was the first time? No one, right? Because practice, 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 practice. Same thing with what MS does to you. You got to practice the new way of living. It's not really a new way that you have to live, but it might be a way that you should have lived before. Because one of the biggest issues that people have with MS is adjusting to the heat. How many people in here have a problem with it being hot outside? Okay, if you don't have MS and you didn't raise your hand, why would you want it to be really hot out? Now, I live in South Florida. I've lived in South Florida about my whole life. I mean, I was born in South Florida. So the weather you're having right now would be a beautiful December day for us. It's under 90 today, I think. It was earlier. And anything under 90 is great. It's cool. It's a cool weather. But you got to get out of it sometimes. You go inside, but when you go inside, you're going to come back outside, so you have to be able to dress properly. And this is all part of adjusting to heat. If you layer yourself indoors because it's cooler indoors, you can unlayer yourself when you go outdoors. But if you forget to do that, you're going to be hot, you're going to overheat, and as you overheat, like you saw in the diagrams, did you pay attention to the diagrams with the heat and when the conduction happens, the insulation around the wires, and that's basically what our myelin is. Our myelin is an insulated area of our nerves that allow conduction to get from A to B. Well, when it overheats, that doesn't happen so well. Just like if something overheats, a cord overheats. So my goal when I'm working with someone is don't let them overheat. Thank God COVID's like moving along and people are indoors together again. Because the whole time I was working through COVID, I was training people outdoors in South Florida in the heat with a lot of fans and a lot of water and a lot of ice, a lot of cold towels, all the things that we need on a daily basis. So in order for you to exercise safely in this temperature, you have to have a plan. Now I'll tell you the first thing that I do when if I'm going to go to the gym, the mall, or anywhere where I'm going to park after doing a lot of walking or exercise. I don't look for the closest spot. You guys might want to look for the closest spot because there's handicap spots in the front, you may need them. But if you're able to get to your car further and there happens to be a tree, park under the tree. Because when you get to that car, if it's 90 degrees out, it's going to be 130 plus inside that car, and it doesn't cool off that fast. And your body getting exposed to that heat, whatever you are planning on doing next, you're probably not going to do it. If you do, it's going to be a little bit late, right? So I'm okay with the bird crap on the car, with the tree, because that coolness is that much of a difference for how we function. So that's the number one thing when it comes to cooling. When you're going to exercise indoors, there's a specific temperature range that you should be at for indoor exercise at 66 to 70 degrees. That sounds cold for indoors, but if you're exercising, your body temperature is going to come up and you're going to feel warmer. So that temperature's not too cold for you. That's according to the American College of Sports Medicine. Outdoor exercise should be done in a shaded area if possible, where there's a good supply of air, wind, and something that you are doing that you enjoy. While you're enjoying something, you're going to be forgetful a little bit more so because it's not in the front of your mind. You'll overheat quick. So remember, have a cold towel, water all the time. How many people in here aren't dehydrated most of the time? I have to say it like that because most people are dehydrated. And most people don't drink enough water. And if you do drink enough water, you could still get dehydrated. But if you're hydrated, your body functions so much better. And your body's able to cool better. And I don't know what happened, where this came, when it started, but people don't drink as much water as they used to. Water's water. But one other thing, how many people wear hats? Okay, what I want you guys to do when you go home, look at all your hats and look on the inside of the hat. If it's a dark hat, if there's a white layer, if you see a little bit of whiteness around the hat, on the rim of the hat, anyone know what I'm talking about? If you look inside a hat, that means that you're a salty sweater. If you sweat a lot of salt, you're going to need salt. I'm not telling you to take salt pills or anything like that, but I'm telling you to know your chemistry because that's an electrolyte. And if you're without salt, you can cramp. And that's for the salty sweaters. You know, there's also potassium, magnesium. There's other things that are other minerals that are important. But a lot of sporting teams just load up with water, and you got a bunch of people sweating everything out. Now they're not just sweating the water out. And if you're drinking purified water, I don't like to drink purified water unless I have to. It's just water. There's no minerals or vitamins or anything like that in the water. You need those minerals. Those minerals are electrolytes. If you go to a spring, you're getting good water. You're getting healthy water. If you don't understand that, there's a great show. It's Zac Efron who does that. He went to Iceland, and they talked about the water in Iceland, and they laugh at purified water. Ha ha ha! Who would want purified water? We've got healthy water here. So you're paying for water that the good stuff has been taken out of. So back to aerobic exercise. Remember I said there's 3 different things: aerobic, flexibility, and strength training. Aerobic exercise is just maintaining something, not too high a level. And if you're walking or doing something, the way to see if you're doing it hard enough or with enough, getting enough out of it, is if you can carry on a conversation and it's too easy to carry on the conversation, you're probably not working out hard enough. It's a little bit difficult too, but you still can, that's a good pace. But if you can sing, no. But if you can't sing anyways, don't try. But that's a talk test. And that's something that I'm always doing with people. I'm always talking to them to see if their response is clear, if if they have to gasp for it, because I don't want someone to be completely exhausted. That's not the case. Another golden rule for exercise: how many people here are afraid to exercise because they have MS? Okay, you shouldn't be afraid of it. You should just be afraid of not knowing what to do. Because exercise is the best complement to any medicine that there is out there for MS. And if you're not on an MS med, exercise can be the MS med, because it can counterbalance what you've lost from MS or what MS may take from you, meaning strength on all meanings of strength: cardiovascular strength, muscular strength, all the different strengths that you have go down if that happens. But you want to focus on that. You want to focus on your aerobic conditioning. Now, how many people think that aerobic conditioning is to lose weight? It's for your heart. It's for your heart, not the lapel. It's for your heart, and if you do enough of it, yes, you might burn a lot of calories. But if you're going to keep up with the calories that you're eating, you really got to think about what you're eating, because if you exercise, say, a good hard exercise, a really, really, really high intense exercise program that you're doing for an hour straight, if you lost 500 calories, that'd be a really, really, really hard workout. That's a lot of calories to burn from a workout. And 500 calories can be 3 sodas. So think about the soda you're drinking when you're drinking it and the exercise. What you put in your mouth makes or breaks what your weight gain or loss is going to be. It's simple when you think about it, but when you're hungry, it's not. So that's why you have to really plan what you're going to do. And if you're someone that exercises a lot, you got to plan for how you're going to feed yourself and how you're going to feed yourself post-exercise. All these things are so important. You don't think about it. You just think, well, I'm going to go exercise. I'm going to be done. And everybody's an expert. You know, the TikTok experts, whatever the next social media thing is that tells you to lose weight this way. I hear it all the time. I even hear people that are in the medical field that tell me, oh my gosh, I heard the next way to lose weight is this. The next way to lose weight. No, you want to lose weight fast, cut off your arm. Seriously. That's the fastest way you're going to lose weight. There's no diet that's going to make you lose weight faster than that. That's weight that will not come back. Okay? You will not regain the arm that you cut off. Okay? So that arm that you have, it's important. You want that arm, right? Eat less calories. You know, every decade there's a new fad. When I was in college, it was, oh, don't touch fat, eat lots of carbs. Then it was eat lots of fat, don't eat carbs, and increase your protein. Then it was eat high protein, eat low. No. You know what at the end of the day, you know what the answer is? The amount of calories you eat. The total amount of calories that you eat. If you eat a lot of protein, you might not get as hungry, so you might not eat as many calories. But calorie is a calorie. A gram of protein and a gram of carbohydrates both have 4 calories. A gram of fat has 9. A gram of alcohol has a little over 7. So think about that. Twice as much as carbohydrates. Now protein, if you have too much protein, you know what's going to happen to you? Nothing in the bathroom. Not going to have to go to the bathroom too often. Who wants to be constipated? No one wants to be constipated. Exercise is something that can help with bowel movement. It also can help with your bladder. These are all things that your systems need that without doing, your body and your systems are lost. You know, we're meant to move. When we don't move, we don't move. And that's, as a result of that, it's hard to move and it's hard to want to move. So when you say you don't exercise because of MS. MS is your reason that, you know, it may be a block for you. But it should be the best and most profound thing that would help you with MS is exercise. Because if you exercise, you can do a little bit more. And if you can do a little bit more, after a while, it adds up. And you take stuff around the house. Anything can count towards exercise. I mean, cleaning. If you don't want to clean, walking, you know, if you don't want to walk. You know, that's what we want to do. But if you can't walk, you can do stuff in a chair. Balance, who has balance issues? Okay, who has problems with stability? Who knows the difference? Not one of you. This is balance, right? This is balance, right? This is stability. Right? There's a difference. It's the difference between a pyramid being upside down or not. They built it the way they did for a reason. But to gain stability from balance is going from here to maybe here to here to here to here back to here over a long period of time. Not in one try. However, if anybody in here can stand on one leg but not for long, I can show you how to make it better. Does anybody want to come up and give it a shot? You can't do it. You can only stand on my foot for a long time. Anybody want to come up and give it a shot? I'm not going to embarrass anybody unless you're embarrassed just to come up on stage. All right, so first, before we do this, how many people in here ever heard of balance bracelets? Okay. Don't worry about them. If you heard about them, I hope you didn't take them seriously. But I'm going to show you why. Okay, so come here. I want you to stand right there. First, stand like this. Okay, do you feel stable? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, now bring your feet closer together. Okay, now what I want you to do is do this. Which leg do you feel more comfortable on? Okay, wait. Don't even think. Stand on one leg, balance, right now. Just one leg for 1 second. Any leg, just stand on it. Okay, that's it. Stop. Okay, so I just wanted to see where you felt more dominant, which is your left.
Yeah, my left.
Okay, so you right-handed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's normal. You're right-handed, left foot's gonna be your go-to because that's what you're gonna jump when you're gonna dunk or do a layup, right? Okay, maybe not dunk, but a layup. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to find a spot anywhere in the room, whether it be a chair, a spot, and stare at it. And then I want you to stand on that leg. I'm gonna be spotting you, so you're not gonna fall.
Okay.
So stand on the leg that you tried doing before. Okay, now try it again.
Okay.
Speak up. People can hear you.
Okay, now hang on a second. Now what I want you to do is hold on to this. Okay, now I want you to, now you guys saw how long she did the foot. Now I want you to stand on your left foot and balance as long as you can on it while holding that. Okay, here, focus on something. Look at something and focus. Okay, so let's do one more time. If you focus on something and do that. Okay, did that look better that time? Yeah. Okay, do you know why? Here, let me have that back. Do you know why that was better? No, because she practiced. That's the whole thing. If you practice, no matter what it is, you practice, you get better at it. If you do it the first time, it's going to be bad. The second time, a little bit better. And the nothing that I put in her hand, which was absolutely nothing, that's what they put around people's arms and said, oh, well, now let's try it with the balance bracelet. And they're doing this, and they're like, oh my, I've never stood like this before in my life. Well, they just sold you ice in the North Pole. That's what they did. Thank you for coming up here. So, do you want to try the same thing? Well, I'm going to try, now that you know the secret, I'm going to let you do it without the fake thing in the hand. But come on up here, because I got some other stuff to show you, and I'm going to show you guys some other things about balance. You can come around this way, but when you get up here, I want you to make sure that. Okay, so do you give consent to be here and be filmed?
To be filmed.
Great. All right. So let me see how you are with your balance. Okay. That's good, especially, you took a few tries, you did it. Okay, so here are some things that I like to do. Let me get something out of here. No, it's right here. Okay, so I'm going to come out here and take a look at you for a second. Have you had a little bit more left-sided problems than the right? Like no? Which side? What? Neither side's been worse? You're pretty balanced. I mean, you're symmetrical. That's good. Yeah. If I saw somebody walking like this, I would suspect they had an injury on this side of their body. This side's strong. Okay, so hold this. Now assume that's 10 pounds. If you were holding that on one side, that side's helping you. That side's working. So if you how many women in here carry a handbag or a purse? How many carry without the crossway, just on one side? Do you keep it on one side all the time? Poor thing. Here, let me take this back. So it'd be like carrying something like this all the time. But if you carry it on the same time all the time, the other side of your body is working all the time, and this side's getting weaker. So you're going to end up like that. So switch sides or use the cross. But just doing something like this, hold that. Now you're using more of that side of your body. Now stay stable, now take the side of your hand. Now do you push? Yeah. You got to resist. Do you feel your core?
Yeah.
Okay, so for balance and stability, other hand. Now you do that side. Now try to press. Just press as hard out. There you go. Now if you were to do that just with someone holding their hand, you're working your balance and your stability, and you're also working your strength and core. Okay. So you get more bang for your buck. But you do have very good balance. Do you work on your balance?
Yeah, well, I walk a lot.
That's the best way to work on your balance is walk. And walking straight, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for coming
Thank
up,
you.
though. So the reason I brought this water bottle up, I brought 2 up, but 1 was leaking. So, is because anything can be used as a piece of equipment. I told you that you guys are the best piece of equipment that there is because you're the driver, you're the one that has to use it. But doing something with this, now I can show you this. Anyone ever seen an exercise called penguins? Well, it's the same thing as if you were holding a weight here and lifting the weight up. So this is, I don't know, about 2 pounds. So if I were to just do this, I'm giving you seated exercises. This is a core exercise. This part of my body is pulling this side of my body back up. My obliques on this side of my body are working. If I do this side, it's pulling my body up. That will help me standing as well as sitting. But if you're sitting in a chair without arms and you're worried about falling out of the chair, you need to have stability, not just on your feet, but you need to have stability on a seated, in a seated position, armrests, whatever else. You don't want to be falling out of a chair. I love exercises from a seated position. You can also hip flexor exercises. How many people want stronger hip flexors? I got good news and I got bad news. If it's a disconnection from the brain to the muscle, it's going to be a really difficult time strengthening them because they are aerobic muscles, and aerobic muscles need to be used often for long periods of time. So by doing something heavy, lifting up, if someone were to put heavy weight on this leg and have you lift it up, say, 10 to 12 times and then you're burnt out, that's not going to do very much for a long walk. It's going to do a lot for 10 reps. So one of the things I like to do with people, and everyone's different, but lift the leg up and drop it. And then say, okay, now I want you to try to hold it up yourself and let it come down as slow as you can. Now eccentrically, you're using your hip flexor, and you just keep doing this. Now that's going to work these muscles, just like if you had problems with drop foot, if you were to lift your foot up and then have to slowly let it down, and lift it up and slowly let it down. Again, if the signal from the brain to the foot's not there, after 8, 9 times, it might not lift again. So you rest. And then you do it again. And that's what you do when you're living outside the gym or outside of a controlled environment where you're exercising. What's the most important thing to do when you get tired? Rest. Then come back and do it again. But if you're always tired, then exercise might be something that will make you not always tired, just within your ability to do it. I have people that have told me and promised me they couldn't exercise, they can't stand up out of a chair, they can't walk, they can't do all these different things, and I learned it's because they're afraid of failure. It's okay to fail. Exercise and failure go hand in hand, because in order to get to the point where you want to be, you better keep failing until you get it right. And once you get it right, you're successful. And you know what that means? You need to do more. And you know what? It's not that difficult because you'll want it that much more. And when you do something, and you do something where you realize that it was all you and all the effort that you put into that one thing got you to that point where you achieved something that you never in your wildest dreams thought, whether you had MS or you didn't have MS, that you could do, and you actually did it, you tell me something that's going to get you more motivated to do something than that. That feeling of accomplishment. And that's something that in exercise may be the most important thing. And it's not a physical, it's an emotion. It's looking in the mirror at someone that's happy. At the end of the day, someone that exercises and has eaten the proper diet and is close to their loved ones, and they don't have that sour face. They have that great face where they're looking with a smile. That smile comes back and forth from that mirror to you so many times that you'll walk out of that room happy. And that's all because you did it. And you all can do it. And you can't do it by thinking, I'm going to do it tomorrow. You got to do it now. Now is the time to do everything. And the thing on each shoulder that says, if you guys still know what the Flintstones are, remember they had like the good and the bad in the shoulder. Do it, no, don't do it, do it, don't do it. It was like the devil and the angel. I think it was the Flintstones. Go with the do it. Just go with that, because it's so easy to say, I'm not going to do it and I'll try it again. And if you guys are inspired to exercise, I can tell you, I spent a year in a chair. And I could not make out any of your faces from the distance that I'm at. And if I had talked, you would not have been able to understand me whatsoever for a year. I know what the struggle's like. I know how hard you have to work to do it. And I know how many times I told myself, I'm going to do it, but not right now. And that was the biggest mistake I did. And when I chose that time to actually do it and crawl and walk and do all that stuff, I succeeded. And not only did I succeed, but the people around me were so happy that it made me twice as happy. And I was better than them at that point. Not all of them. But I can tell you from experience, from the research side of it, from the other side of the desk as well. You work hard, it pays off. If you work hard and you fail, find a different way. Don't give up. But find that way. And then work that way and put that into whatever program it is, whether it's your work, whether it's your relationship, whether it's the foods you eat, or just whether it's getting out of bed. That's what's going to make or break or make you the person who you want to be versus the person you wish you were. And exercise is something that is progressive. You can get better with doing it. I'm not talking about MS-wise, but what MS takes from you, you can slow that down. There's some strength things that are not due to MS, it's secondary, and those things you can beat. You can get back to being stronger than you were prior to having MS, but the reason for not doing it isn't a good reason just, well, I have MS, I shouldn't exercise. That's come and gone. You heard what the doctor said. Those days are over where exercise is bad for you. The only thing that you should realize is if you do exercise, you're going to be fatigued afterwards, whether you have MS or not, if you exercised correctly. But 2 hours after you exercise, if you're still too tired, or you still feel more tired than you did prior to exercise, you overdid it. How many people who exercise overdo it? Very few. You know why? Because nobody wants to overdo it. Everybody is afraid. So with that, I want to thank you guys, and I want to open up for some questions.
All right, so from online, first person writes, can exercise help the deconditioning of the body because of inactivity?
Okay, 100%. That's like a cause and effect. If you're deconditioned and you condition yourself, then you're not going to be deconditioned anymore. Therefore, it works.
Do you have a video, or are you online with the exercises? Or?
I have on YouTube several videos I've done through MS Views and News. If you go to their learning channel, you can see some of those videos. I also have my own page if you look me up, but most of the stuff on my page comes off of MS Views and News' page. But I do, yes.
So to get to that page, you go to msviewsandnews.org, and you'll be able to see this here when we get this published as well, but you can always contact me and we could give you the website address. Okay, and all right, next online question is, do you have chair-based exercises online?
I don't myself, but there's plenty of chair-based exercises online. There's programs online. Anything you do in anything that you do in a chair that doesn't require getting up and down out of a chair is usually pretty, worthy of doing. Just be careful, because there's a lot of people, like I was talking before, that are giving out misinformation and saying to do X, Y, and Z. That's not the right thing. So make sure that if you find a video or someone doing exercise in a chair, you look at their credentials and you look at what they've, you look at their past and you look at who they are in the industry, and make sure they're not just some social influencer who's saying do this, that, and the other, it helped me, and they're really just a model.
Great. Another person writes, housework can cause fatigue, which makes me inactive. Should I keep moving even with the fatigue?
Yes and no. It depends if you're fatigued when you're not doing it. If you're fatigued when you're not exercising and you're also fatigued when you're exercising, why not do it? If housework gets you too tired, then you may need to do a little bit more outside of housework and get yourself conditioned in the gym, walking, doing something in the water, but something to increase your stamina. But as far as, I'm not sure the rest of that question, if it was, Stuart, what was the second part of the question?
Same as the first part.
Okay, then the answer is yes. Thanks.
Great. The question was, it was stated as housework causes fatigue, which makes me inactive. Should I keep moving even with the fatigue?
Okay, so the keep moving with the fatigue is depending on how much fatigue you have at that point. If you're too tired to continue, you stop. If you're able to continue, but it's a little bit uncomfortable, but it's the same fatigue that you normally experience, you may want to try doing a little bit longer than the normal time and add to it and add to it and add to it and see if the stamina holds, because that's the definition of a progressive training program, whether it's aerobic or not. So yes, it's a good idea to increase.
Okay, I want to make a statement like you've been saying, religiously getting up and moving. If you don't do that, you're in trouble, because I've noticed with a lot of things and other people, when they sit down and don't try to do anything, then it's
a cycle.
Yeah.
It's definitely a cycle.
Yeah, because if you're definitely moving and all that, like you said, your body muscles will be stronger, and then you can increase and be a better person. Yeah, I really agree with that.
Okay, so here's something that goes with that. If you sit around all the time, or you're laying in bed all the time, you're increasing your chances of diabetes, and you're increasing even more so your chances of osteoporosis. Now, both diabetes and osteoporosis are even more of a chance having MS and receiving steroids. So to counteract that, exercise counteracts both of that, both insulin and bone density. So if your body's not receiving your insulin properly because you've got too many fat cells and you're not moving enough, that's going to help it. And your body's going to produce osteoblasts that increase bone density as well from weight bearing.
Great, thank you. Next question is here, there, exactly. All right, question comes as, what is the best time to train or exercise, and how is that affected by the temperatures going on in the summertime now, and to be outdoors and exercise in this heat?
Okay, if you're heat sensitive, the worst time of the day to exercise outdoors is between 1 and 4 o'clock. Those are the time is no, that's when it's going to be the hottest. Yes, it's not a good idea to exercise in hot temperatures. Don't do it. Indoor is much better, and like I already said, the temperatures to exercise indoors is 66 to 70 degrees. So yeah, heat is going to have an impact on your exercise, and you should stay away from those hours. So the best time of the day to exercise is a little bit different for everybody. It's when you're most willing to exercise, to me, is the best time to exercise. If at noon is when you feel you have the most energy and the most time to do it, noon's the best time to exercise. If 5 o'clock in the afternoon is not, you're still at work, but you have the most energy, then you got to find another time when you have the next most amount of energy. So you have to put it in your schedule and make sure that A, you have the ability to do it energy-wise, and it's safe.
What are your thoughts about people who have to choose between physical therapy and personal training exercises?
Okay, well, that's interesting that you say that, because that's like asking somebody if they want to eat an apple or a car. They're two completely different things. A physical therapist, if there's no personal trainer in your area that understands MS, you can get some of the information, but not all physical therapists are specialists in strength and conditioning. There's a complete different thing. One is a corrective treatment. One has to have a prescription, and one is to fix something. that's broken. And when you get back to a baseline, then you can go over to a personal trainer. So there's a time and a place for both. I know my role. I know when I'm with somebody, and I know when it's time for them to go to a physical therapist. And I work hand in hand with a lot of physical therapists. I have some people, here's one, I have a physician who has MS, has a physical therapist where he lives, a personal trainer where he lives, and travels to where I live to work with me and another trainer. Okay, that completes the whole circle. We all work off of each other. But if a personal trainer tries to take the place of a physical therapist, it's going to be bad news. If a physical therapist tries to take the place of a personal trainer and doesn't know how to progressively build a program, they're not going to give as much information as you need, and they may be lacking or they may be improvising. Who knows? So the answer is they're both great to have, physical therapy and personal training, but there's a time and a place for each of them, and they're very different.
Thank you. Next question. How do I know I've exercised enough?
How do you know you've exercised?
I didn't ask the question.
No,
Somebody
okay,
else
so
asked
I'll
the
tell
question.
you. That's an interesting question because it sounds very like there's, how do you answer that? If you exercise without a goal, I can't answer that question. But if you have a goal and you've reached your goal, you know how much exercise you need. So whatever your goal for that particular exercise bout is your point of when you're going to stop. That's including a warm-up and a cool-down. But goal-based exercise routines are how to figure that question out and the answer out. So if you haven't reached the goal and it's gotten over the time limit that you had to exercise, well, that goal is going to have to be continued the next day.
Next one. Is there an exercise that can help with intention tremors?
With which tremors?
Intention.
Intention tremors.
They had intention.
I am not sure, but if it's, I can tell you that some tremors, especially peripheral tremors, arm, hand shaking, and you know what you normally would see, say, in a Parkinson's patient, but does happen with MS. Weights on the wrists do help. Light weights, like exercise weights, maybe a half a pound, and try to do something with fine motor skills. Doing it with the weight might stimulate enough to stop the tremor. It may. It's something that an occupational therapist would be best to talk to about. But I've done that where we sample things, and if it doesn't work, then they go to the occupational therapist.
Thanks again. Next one, last one that I have for currently is, what is a good temperature to use for going swimming, and should I use an outdoor pool or an indoor pool?
Well, that depends if the outdoor pool has direct sun exposure. Indoor pool, that's preference. The temperature is 80 degrees to 84 degrees for aquatic exercise. And if you think that's too cold, you're spoiled. But no, that's the proper temperature for exercise, aquatic exercise. So remember, when you're in the water, you lose a lot of heat. Your heat's coming out at a much greater and faster pace than if you're outside of the water. So you got to be very careful.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I hope to see you again soon.
All right. So I want to thank everybody for coming that were here online and in audience. How do you say that? In person. That's great. All right. So I'm saying goodbye. We'll see you next time online. Have a good one. Bye-bye.